And, oh, Carlina, do I have to start again? Because now we're recording. And you can please excuse me. This is one of the few days where I'm grateful that I accidentally woke up about 1:30 in the morning and checked my email to see what was going on as the Supreme Court delivered its opinions. But just to reset a bit, this is a big day for Guam and for the people of Guam. We had filed our case to hold the Navy accountable to pay its fair share of cleaning up the Ordot dump. But this case is more than just about contributions. This case is really about justice. And you know that by the fact that we've had generations wake up to listen to oral arguments in the middle of the night here on Guam who don't know what CERCLA is. And I saw a young person put that they were searching the internet for slurpa because they weren't quite sure what the laws were. But you know, I think anyone who's from here knows just how important this issue is to our community, and just getting any sense of justice for our island. And when I woke up, I immediately thought about the quote, the arc of justice is long, but it bends towards justice. Or the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And that's what came to mind. This has been decades in coming now. And I do want to recognize those who have contributed to this, you know, starting with Attorney General Elizabeth Barrett Anderson, my predecessor, who took on this case in 2017. She was assisted by the team who stood by Guam, Kelly Dry, we have John and Bill, John Gilmore and Bill Jackson, who represented Guam at the trial court level. Mayor Gogui and the residents of Ordot, who have also had to deal with this and know firsthand just how much waste was dumped up at Ordot and the real impacts that it had on the surrounding residents of the dump. And again, they just put us in a position, the Supreme Court 9-0 confirmed unanimously that the legal theory that we have taken to hold the Navy accountable is one that we can pursue. And we look forward to proving up damages at trial. And that's all I have, Carlina. We could have questions.
Thank you, AG. Mr. Lacey, go ahead, please.
Hi, thanks for having me. General Camacho, I'm in touch with you all the way from the Denver area in Colorado. So congratulations.
You got a great AG out there in General Weiser. So.
Yes, our Attorney General, yes. Congratulations on the big win. Our discussions with the Justice Department to potentially resolve the financial issues here expected to get underway with the Biden administration?
I can say that it's still kind of fresh, and you know, I don't think anyone wants to spike the ball that we've got this decision, a favorable decision from the Supreme Court. The next step will be to meet with the Department of Justice to figure out what our trial schedule is going to look like. But at this point, I'm not aware of any discussions that have started with the administration on settlement. We're preparing for trial, Hank. That's our position, and that's the position we're going to take going into the status report.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got the link next. Chris and Sabrina, good morning.
Hi, good morning. It's Sabrina. So I wanted to if you could just walk us through, you said trial, what the next step is. What do we have to do?
So the decision is to remand back to the district court. And again, to give some context, we won before Judge Jackson in the District of Columbia circuit. Then it was the District of Columbia, the DC Court of Appeals, or the Circuit Court of Appeals, that reversed Judge Jackson. Then we went up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court found in our favor. Now it goes back to the trial court level. There's been a little bit of a wrinkle because our judge has been nominated by the president to assume a seat in that circuit on the Court of Appeals. So if that happens, it'll be reassigned to a new judge. She'll actually be taking over the spot that was vacated by Attorney General Merrick Garland. So we're looking at potentially getting a new judge. We have been ordered to meet with the Department of Justice and to submit a status report within the next 30 days. So that's what the next step will be, Sabrina.
Attorney General, are we at, I mean, I'm pretty sure we're anticipating some kind of financial award or compensation. Do you have any guesstimate on what that might be?
Chris, I mean, this is a big win, but we got to pump the brakes just a little bit. We're still early on in the litigation, so we still have to find out exactly what the Navy dumped up, and we have to prove it up at trial. And then the judge is going to decide, based on expert testimony, how to apportion out the share of closure costs for Ordot. So I don't have an estimate for you, but I can tell you that we've already started to gather documents. We're going to need to get more information about what exactly was dumped up there.
Do you think that the trial may be more of a challenge than the Supreme Court case was?
Well, Chris, I think I've shared with you before, if we get 1 cent, it'll be more than what they've contributed so far. And that just goes towards the inequity here. I mean, we all know that they dumped hazardous waste up there, but they forced us to sue them, to take them to court. We've now had to sue them, take them all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And, we're not going to be concerned about what they're going to do. We're kind of focusing on what we have to take care of to prove up our case. But any money we recover is going to be more than what we've been offered and what they've paid to date.
We'll defer the rest of our questions to Nestor.
Thanks. Okay, I have John O'Connor with the Post.
Right, thank you, Carolina. AG, you kind of went over it a little bit with the prior questions, but can you kind of give an understanding of what a positive outlook would look like for Gov Guam should it win the case over at the trial court?
Well, the goal is to have them pay their fair share of closing Ordot. So it's very hard, again, to whatever that amount is, I can't tell you. That's what we have to prove up. We know it's greater than what they've paid so far in terms of contributions. But we're just trying to get them to pay what's fair. And I can't put a price tag on it for you at this moment. But at the end of the day, we have the burden of finding documents, finding witnesses to testify about what exactly they did put up there, what exactly was leaking into the surrounding rivers.
How far would that go back? You're talking all the way back to the first
Well,
time.
when I talk about the long arc of justice, we're talking decades, and that's really what this case comes down to. They used and dumped toxic waste up there starting in the 50s, 40s, so we're going to have to find paper trails. We're going to have to check for receipts. I know that the US EPA had identified the Department of Defense as a potential responsible party already. So we know there's some theory there. We also have common sense to know that they dump things up there, munitions, etc. So I can't, in terms of what the evidence is going to show, I mean, we might be reaching out to members of the community who witnessed them dumping things. We might be reaching out to veterans who went out there and who actually dumped chemicals, who dumped munitions, to help us build out our case to paint a better picture.
Can you tell us who your legal team was, and will they remain the same for the trial court as well?
So Bill Jackson and John Gilmore are with Kelly Dry, and they will remain our legal team at the trial court level. And on appeal, we were represented by Latham Watkins, and Greg Garr was the attorney who argued the case on behalf of Guam.
Thank you, AG. I'll defer for the next round.
Okay, great. I've got Wayne Chargaloff. Wayne, go ahead, please.
Hafide, Attorney General. My name is Wayne Chargaloff again with the Pacific News Center. And my question is, I know things just happened today, but what are the implications for this case as far as other environmental cases for Guam and throughout the Pacific? Is this decision tied specifically to CERCLA, or do you see it opening up other things, even as far as, like, say, atomic testing and other islands and that sort of thing? Like, how broad reaching are the implications for this?
Legally, this is pretty specific to CERCLA, Wayne, I will say. But it's going to force us to have some very candid discussions about the military's role on the island. Ordot is not the only site that there was the dumping of toxic waste or hazardous substances on the island. And, going back to just how significant this is to the people of Guam, it's significant regionally, because this might be the first case where we have a shot in court at proving up our damages and holding the Navy accountable for its fair share, which is more than we can say for our neighbors, unfortunately. But I'm sure they all have been and will continue to root for Guam, that we get our day in court and we get some resolution in our favor.
Thank you.
Okay, Nestor with KUAM.
Yes, thank you, Carlina. General Camacho, so according to the syllabus, it says the case turns on whether CERCLA authorizes a contribution claim only when a party resolves a CERCLA specific liability, or whether settlement of environmental liabilities under other laws will do. Can you explain that? If that's where the case turns, can you explain that in non-legalese?
To the extent that I can, Nestor. I tried to talk to my son this morning about it and kind of give him the example of cleaning up, me and his mom messed up his room, and then he was born and he inherited this messy room. And then we forced him to pay to clean it up. And he said, oh, you know what? I would call my Nana and force her to tell you what to do. So I guess in this analogy, the Supreme Court is the grandma figure. But really what this case boiled down to, and these are the discussions that started with the Kelly Dry team before, with my predecessor. We had to contend with this consent decree that was entered into with US EPA that was executed under the Clean Water Act. And we knew, and the team knew, that they were going to raise a statute of limitations issue. But the precise legal question was whether or not a Clean Water Act consent decree triggers your time to file a CERCLA claim. And today the court unanimously held that it does not. That in order to trigger CERCLA liability, you have to have executed a CERCLA settlement agreement.
Yeah, I know this has been asked of you earlier, so let me try a different way. What do you believe is the Navy's fair share of the Ordot dump closure cost in terms of percentage? Are you going to start in trial at 100% and let them work your way down? How are you going to
We're going to go where the evidence takes us, Nestor. So, I mean, we have to acknowledge as well that the government of Guam, if we have been using it and if what our responsibility is, and at this day, we starting with that, we have to accept our own responsibility for what has happened at the dump. There's no doubt about that. But at this point, we have been held 100% responsible for all of the cleanup costs at Ordot. And the number that's going to be fair is greater than 0. So again, I can't give you an exact percentage, but I know it's greater than what's been offered at this point and what's been paid at this point.
And what specifically, if you get any money from the Navy out of this, what specifically will it be used for? What can it be used for? For example, can it be used to pay down the bond that was taken out for post-closure costs?
Nestor, we'll have to, I mean, that will probably be, I don't have an answer for you on that. I mean, I don't want to say it's above my pay grade, but it's one of those things that there are going to have to be other players involved in deciding how any settlement would be spent.
Okay, and finally, before we move on, does this, you mentioned that this is like decades-long issue, and the residents of Ordot have suffered greatly because of what has happened at the Ordot dump. Does this provide an opening for them, maybe for a civil case for a class action suit against, well, I guess Gov Guam would be part of that too, against the Navy and Gov Guam for the operation of that dump?
Well, you're going to have different statutory theories. So we have CERCLA that we've proceeded against. I don't know off the top of my head whether or not it provides a private party the opportunity to sue a potential responsible parties. So I'm not sure, but I go back to Nestor. At this point, just acknowledging what happened up there is going to part of what we want as an island. Just tell us what happened, right? And we don't get that all the time. So if we can find out the story of what really happened and get some acknowledgement, some recognition of fault, I think that'll just help us move on as an island.
Okay, I'll defer to the next round. Thank you, AG.
Thank you, Nestor. Up next, I've got Steve Limtiaco with the PDN.
Yes, hi, good morning. I know you said you still have to gather information, evidence, witnesses about what was put in the dump. But your court filings are very specific, mentioning things like Agent Orange. Where did that information come from?
So my understanding is that the information that we relied on in the complaint was based on US EPA documents when it's a Superfund site. So you know that there's stuff up there. But Steve, is going to come down to quantity and also how much it would cost to clean it up. So the presence of it is one thing, how much of it is another. And when we argue percentage or allocation of liability, both are going to play a role, not only what was dumped up there, but the volume of what was dumped up there.
So does Gov Guam have accurate records about that, or would that have to come from the federal side?
It would come from the federal side, is my understanding. Most of those documents would come from the federal side.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Polly Suba next. Mr. Suba, are you there?
Oh, there. Sorry. Good morning, Attorney General Leevin Camacho. What are the chances the U.S. Navy settles out of court? And if they do reach out to try to settle, what are we willing to accept?
Yeah, Polly, I don't have an answer for you. We have a decision right now. We're going to proceed as though this matter is going to be set for trial. I know we were all stung a little bit at the remark made by the Department of Justice during oral argument that the Navy denied putting anything up there that was hazardous. And I don't know if that was a preview of the position that they're going to take at the district court at this point. So in terms of their willingness to settle, I mean, you prefer that we wouldn't have gotten to the point where we had to sue the Navy to get them to the table to talk about paying their fair share. But that's where we're at right now. And we're just going to continue down this path until we receive word otherwise.
All right. And Nestor might have answered this, but asked this question, but are you aware of any civil lawsuits or ongoing lawsuits with Ordot Village private citizens and maybe wanting to attach themselves now to this case, or maybe you're working with them, you have in contact with some of these private citizens?
I'm not aware, Polly, of any civil suits or personal suits involving this.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Polly. I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor. There's a couple names here I don't recognize, and then I've got just a couple generic names here. So I actually have Guam Daily Post up next, iPhone. If you'd like to go, following that is, again, KUAM. So please go ahead. Guam Daily Post. Okay, KUAM, would you like to go again?
Sure, just one question. AG, how long do you think it will take to litigate the financial costs?
Well, that's part of what the next steps are going to be, Nestor. So we're going to map out. The typical is going to be discovery, potential for motions to be filed. The trial itself, it's going to depend on how much we're willing to stipulate to between the parties. So I can't give you an estimate, but we'll have a much better idea within the next 30 to 60 days, and we'll be sure to keep you informed.
Okay, I have no other questions. Thank you.
I will
Sorry,
open
Karina,
the floor. Yes, go ahead, John.
Sorry about that. But AJ, I believe the figure cited in the lawsuit was 160 million. I know we still have to go through the trial court, and you still have to, that will eventually decide how much Guam actually gets. But just to put this question out there, can that amount be billed directly from the Navy?
Well, yes. I mean, what we're seeking for is for them to pay a portion of the 160 million.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. That's all I have.
Are there any further questions from those of us who are in the Zoom room with us? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.
Well, Carlina, before we end, I just want the last thing, just again, thank Attorney General Manabusan for organizing. One of the things that we forget all the work that goes into getting to a unanimous decision, representing all spectrums of political or legal interpretation. So the fact that he was able to get 26 AGs, 13 Democrats, 13 Republicans, just goes to show how forceful our arguments were. I just want to thank him again for
Can you ask him, did you expect this to be this quick? Were you anticipating that this decision would be this quick? I mean, we're talking about the U.S. Supreme Court in 3.5 weeks. It seemed rather fast.
Well, Sabrina, my theory on that is I'm celebrating 9 years of my anniversary tomorrow. So the court must have known and they must have known the significance of the number 9 and wanted to get it out as an early anniversary gift. But I think the fact that it's unanimous just shows it's not going to require potentially as much time. 12 pages is not, I mean, that's shorter than most Supreme Court of Guam opinions and most district court of Guam, I mean, most court opinions, period. So once they arrived at the textual approach they were going to take, and Justice Thomas was the one who authored the opinion, it was a relatively simple question, which is whether or not contribution as used under 113F3 means CERCLA, or liability means CERCLA liability. So we knew it was going to happen before June. I couldn't have predicted it would happen this quickly, but I'm certainly happy it did.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carr.
Thanks, Arlene.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, that concludes our press conference.
Office of the Attorney General press conference there. Kind of unpacking.
Chris, can you mute, please? All right, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all.